The coffee beans are exceptional, symbolic of a new day in a land far from Milwaukee.
The entrepreneurial energy there was so strong.
Harvested from some of the bloodiest fields of the Vietnam War, the Central Highlands. It was a turbulent time.
I think we just realized we were probably going to die.
In the U.S. and Indochina.
I went to right in the battle zone where guns fighting all over the place.
A life-changing experience.
It turned me into someone who was grateful for life, and it made a profound difference. I mean, I decided I'm going to do something with my life.
40-year-old images still burn in the American psyche, but time marches on. Former enemies are talking.
He asked me, well, how'd you guys keep your weapons dry and stuff like that?
And building a future. Daily life in Vietnam is vibrant, enterprising, and worldly.
It's not that country anymore. It's not just a country of farmers, rice farmers with coolie hats and black pajamas. It's a very contemporary society.
Vietnam is a destination.
It's like a farmer's market, but like in the city.
They wondered why we were doing certain things, like, why are we doing this, Mom?
The Socialist Republic of Vietnam is coming of age, a blending of communist heritage and capitalist vision.
I think Vietnam is very free as long as you stay out of politics.
The world is taking note, as is Milwaukee itself, by building a bridge to Vietnam. Hello, I'm Mark Siegrist. Some bridges to Vietnam are tangible monuments. Others extend from the human spirit. Life will never be the same for Jane Brown and her husband, Jeff.
They were 3 and 6 months old when we brought them to here to Elm Grove.
Not since their trip to Hanoi back in 2001.
We were ready to parent 2 more children after raising 2 daughters. And we waited 18 months for the call to say, it's time to come over and meet the babies and file the paperwork that needed to be filed.
Well, it was just a great joy to go over there and to meet infants who had been born in Hanoi, which was a city that I had very negative connotations.
Meet Zach and Jack Brown today. A couple of typical Milwaukee area kids whose interests range from making videos to outdoor sports.
Well, we have a place in Wauwatosa where there's a lot of bike jumps, and we go there pretty often.
How typically Milwaukee? About a year ago, Jeff and Jane Brown took their adopted sons back to Vietnam for a deeper cultural experience. The boys' first return visit since birth. It was eye-opening.
It was different because they had different lifestyles. Even if it was in the cities, it's different because there's a lot more people outside walking around.
But Jack and Zach are no strangers to their own heritage. Over the years, the Brown family has stayed well connected to Vietnamese tradition.
I think that it helps them accept themselves more, the more they can understand about their culture, and for them to see that we are welcoming of people that are like them in their house. It makes them feel more, at ease.
Remember that negative feeling that Jeff Brown said he once had for Hanoi? Well, that changed quickly after meeting his 2 infant sons for the first time. And how did the adoption of Jack and Zach open your eyes to the potential of Vietnam from a cultural sense, economic sense?
When I went there, the first thing, other than meet the boys, after I met the boys, I thought, I want to invest in this place. Because the entrepreneurial energy there was so strong.
And that's exactly what Jeff Brown did, building bridges to Vietnam in a variety of ways. Microfinancing small startups, serving as a liaison for business, culture, and education, and more recently, a venture of his own, Temple Hills Coffee, grown and harvested in the Vietnamese mountain village of Co Dat.
Where we're working with farmers to help develop their community and their income through their capacity to grow the best quality coffee that Vietnam can produce.
1,700 pounds of specialty beans, the highest quality yet, arrived in Milwaukee last spring.
It's probably the only specialty grade coffee available in the Western Hemisphere from Vietnam.
A Temple Hills partner, Anodyne Coffee Roasting Company, provides the warehousing as Jeff continues to develop his emerging business.
We have our own brand and it's available online, but we're also making the beans themselves available to other roasters so they can offer it under their own label, their own brand, but they also can sell it in coffee shops around the country.
So why is Jeff Brown investing in Vietnam's future? In short, he's convinced that Vietnam has the makings of a global leader.
What happened to Japan? Well, they figured out that they could grow their economy by growing quality, by creating quality. And so who's the best, who's got the reputation now as the best producer of, say, certain kinds of electronics? It's Japan, and Japan grew its economy, grew up all the way to the second leading economy in the world by producing quality. That's what I want to do with Vietnam.
Where does your passion for being so connected to Vietnam right now come from?
Where do I get passion? I think it's, again, I think it's from coming of age during the Vietnam War and just being part of the most important single development that shaped our culture, our American culture. It still affects the way our culture, our government, and our relationships work. And it had the biggest impact of any other single event, I think, on my generation and the generation that followed.
A profound impact became an intimate connection by raising two kids from Hanoi with a global vision of their own. What does the world need to know about Vietnam?
Well, it's a very beautiful place. There's a lot of very cool architecture, and the geography is very interesting. There's a lot of different caves and a lot of different features you can visit in Vietnam.
Well, here we usually just have a rectangular shape for a building, but there it's whatever they can fit it. They'll put them all together along each other and try to get as much space as they can.
So urban life is a lot closer.
Yeah.
The buildings are a lot closer. Taking Zach and Jack back to their roots was worth the effort. Initially, the boys were anxious to be back home in Milwaukee, but the experience has left a lasting impression. What was it like bringing Jack and Zach back to Vietnam?
It made me feel good to be showing them their country and to try to show them all the different aspects of the country and not try to color it at all either, so that they could form their own opinions.
I saw a lot of different crops that Wisconsin doesn't grow. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin doesn't really grow sugarcane, but Vietnam grows sugarcane.
Sugarcane is a big crop in Vietnam.
It takes a lot more work to do something than here, because if you're just living a normal life, you can just get food from your fridge, but there you have to, for the farmers, it takes time, out of their, that's their job to get food and sell it and live a life.
They're just tremendously curious and wonderful American Vietnamese boys, and it's a great joy. It's a great joy of my life to be their father.
For survivors of the Vietnam War and the Greater War in Indochina, healing and reconciliation occur in different ways. Chuck Toish is completing a mission. Reverend Ray Stubbe remains spiritually connected. Tia Vu Yang is paying tribute. Roger Quindell pursues a life of service. Chuck Toish, a Milwaukee attorney and U.S. Army combat veteran, briefly thought about building a bridge. He opted for something even bigger. That was back in 1999. He was visiting the town of Duc Pho in the central province of Quang Ngai, Toish's old battle zone. The meeting was extraordinary. It involved coming face to face with a former enemy named Hoang Quoc Ve. During the war, Ve was the Viet Cong leader of strategic planning, where Chuck Toish was serving.
What did you both talk about?
We talked about how you kept your weapons dry, how we get sick, the damn mosquitoes. We talked about human things that everybody's stuck with if you're going to fight a war in Southeast Asia. We had quite an exchange.
The conversation then turned to local needs, replacing washed-out bridges and children's literacy. That's when Children's Library International was born. The town of Duc Pho dedicated its library in 2001. Since then, Chuck Toish's initiative has spread to more than 30 sites in the region, mostly in Vietnam itself, where education is changing.
But that change involves opening the kid's mind to creative thinking, to make it competitive in a world that looks for creative thinkers. And Vietnam is historic for having strong rote thinkers. They'll memorize what they're told to memorize with a great discipline and great aplomb, and that's important. They shouldn't give that up. But to ask them to go beyond and to engage in creative thought processes for problem solving and so on, that's kind of new. And that's the major development that's been intriguing for us.
Chuck Toish isn't done yet. Children's Library International is still growing, and he's up for the task, bringing remarkable energy to the cause, from planning to construction and finding the funding.
Why is your humanitarian outreach, especially in Vietnam, so important to you?
People ask me, you go over there because you feel guilty. And that's somebody that doesn't understand me at all. Because the reason I'm there is because I'm an American, and this is what Americans do. The Marshall Plan after World War II, the proposal of the League of Nations after World War I, albeit defeated by President Wilson, going back to the first, after the Civil War, the Civil War benefits being paid to soldiers from the South. It's not new for Americans to show up after a war and try to heal the wounds of the fallen comrades on both sides.
Two former enemies in the Vietnam War were keeping their weapons dry for a reason: survival. But that wasn't enough. They both wanted a much younger generation to be better served, with books and computers and a brighter future. Former Navy chaplain Ray Stubbe carries the memory of the Vietnam War in his heart and in his soul. He'll never forget the guys, and he still stays in touch with many of them today.
Vietnam for me is the young 19, 20-year-olds that I got to know who are probably as a group the best people that I've ever known in my whole life.
Ministering to the Marines during the Battle of Khe Sanh was about as tough as it gets. The fighting was intense. It lasted for months. Casualties were among the highest of the war. The walls of his Wauwatosa study helped tell the story. Reverend Stubbe was obviously challenged to inspire faith under fire, but it was the men he was serving who often inspired him.
What kind of selfless acts do you remember witnessing?
These are people that would give their last drops of water, last bits of bread, and dash out during incoming when they could be injured themselves, just to pull somebody back to safety. First of all, everyone becomes numb. You don't, emotion, I think it's just a human way of shutting down emotions so that you can do what you have to do to survive.
Reverend Stubbe regards selfless acts of courage like that as highly spiritual, the presence of God in a moment of crisis. In fact, many of the men Stubbe knew in battle have gone on to pursue higher callings of their own.
Of those who were there that I know of, at least 24 later became ministers and priests, and I've talked with them, and they all said that even in that horror and that darkness and that terror and bleakness of everything, they felt the presence of God in this, and that's what caused them to become ministers or priests. Those who have passed through
the darker aspects of human life are probably in a better position to be a positive influence with people today.
The Battle of Khe Sanh was dark, to say the least. Yet through it all, a Navy chaplain and his colleagues found glimmers of hope, the memories of which still kindle their healing today. This local market in Sheboygan, Wisconsin could easily be overlooked in the busy traffic, but it too is a very meaningful bridge to another time and another place. There are many ways to describe the keeper of this store. Fascinating is one of them. Tia Vu Yang is a global citizen, Renaissance man, and a humanitarian. Running an ethnic market largely for Sheboygan's Hmong community is just one of his many interests. He takes great pleasure in stocking favorite foods and providing helpful information. In the early days, that often meant helping new customers better understand American currency.
So we kind of get us a store together where we sell food, and then they come, they can speak Hmong, Lao, and then we give them the change, and we kind of speak like that.
So your store is more than a marketplace, it really is a gathering place, a special gathering place.
No, it is almost like that. And keeping people together. And they, when they come to the store, we as store owner, we speak Hmong to them, they feel good too. Yeah, so it's kind of self-help group that start going like that.
Before launching his grocery business in 1982, Tia Vu Yang was educated in France and traveled the world as a chemical engineer. Vu, as his friends call him, is also a survivor of the U.S. secret war in Laos. The secret war was part of the greater Indochina conflict during the Vietnam era. His father, Colonel Young Chu Yang, was a battalion commander in the Hmong Army. Hmong soldiers in Laos frequently rescued downed American pilots. They also were instrumental in disrupting the North Vietnamese supply line along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. As a teenage civilian, Vu knew the danger well. Friends and family in the military would take him on patrol or invite him on a flight mission.
War is not happy things. War is nasty. And a lot of my friends on my age, they were killed.
You wanted to understand.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Vu Yang has never forgotten what he witnessed. That's why in recent years he took on another initiative, teaming up with Chuck Toish to build a library in Nung Het, Laos, his native home.
Well, then Vu Yang took the bull by the horns in 2010, and we did build it. And now we do have a library in Nung Het.
A lot of kids, they want to learn English. Because when somebody speaks English, it's jobs, it's money, it's something that they can get beyond the village or the boundaries. When I grew up barefoot, no school, no place, no opportunity. If I can change just little things, I would do it, and that's the library.
Vu Yang has long been a leader in Sheboygan's Hmong community, helping families resettle. He also started a local radio program to keep families informed and connected. But perhaps Vu is best known for leading a major civic project to honor those who served during the secret war in Laos. The Lao, Hmong, and American Veterans Memorial graces Sheboygan's lakefront with its simplicity, elegance, and character. The site is a tribute to service. It's also an historical narrative about the Hmong culture. Much of that narrative is depicted by children's mosaics.
This is an educational piece of work. So try to teach people, the younger generation, why, when, and how the Hmong came to Sheboygan and to the United States.
But despite the visual appeal, what matters most to Vu Yang is how it makes him feel.
I feel people, all of the friends, the parents, the fathers, they are all in there. You cannot see them, but they are all in there.
In spirit?
In spirit, yes.
I went to Vietnam because I wanted to do something, I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to be a leader, I wanted to be brave.
The Vietnam War was a life changer for Roger Quindell. Milwaukeeans know him well as a former elected county leader, activist, and coach. He's led a life of service with an engaging personality. As a veteran, Roger has never made a secret of his disliking for the war, but writing for the Veterans Book Project has helped him go deep.
My story is about transformation, that the war wasn't the way I thought it was going to be, and the leadership wasn't what I thought it would be. The purpose and how you distinguish between enemy and friends wasn't at all what I thought. But despite all of the ugliness and the brutality of war, it transformed me, and that's the good part for me, at least for me.
What do you remember most about the war experience?
You know, people dying around you, people crying in agony. I saw someone just burned to death, you know, like right next to me. And sometimes they're accidents, sometimes they're just things that happen. People being brutal.
Roger had a brush with death himself, a severe head injury from shrapnel. This is what was left of one of the two rockets. The explosion killed 9 people and put Roger in the hospital. He still lives with metal fragments in his head today.
I had 8 facial fractures. I lost about 16 square inches of my scalp. So I actually look pretty good because I had a facelift at 21. So, I mean, they had to do a lot of repair work.
11 weeks in the hospital gave Roger Quindell plenty of time to think, to reassess his life and his mission.
Because when I went to the hospital, I'm there in Japan, and I watch Martin Luther King, see it on TV. Martin Luther King gets assassinated and killed, and American cities, including Milwaukee, burning. And I'm in a Japanese hospital, you know, trying to give someone else freedom and democracy. That's what they're telling. I'm going like, man, what are we doing? I got through all that, and what I learned from it is, you know, basically what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it made me a stronger person, but it's like, hey, I'm alive. I got to live a life. So that's what I learned from this, is that life is precious and you got to live one, and other people you know didn't.
In 1983, Roger returned to Vietnam, this time to attend an international conference on biological and chemical warfare. It was an interesting reunion. His guide, posing on the left, was a veteran of the North Vietnamese Army.
My guide, it turns out we were talking, and one of the 2 guides and interpreters, and he had served basically in the same area in the same time. I don't know if we fought each other, but we were certainly there. But for us, we were just soldiers doing our job.
Some bridges to Vietnam even help you find your way back home.
I mean, this color is so much better here than it was. That was all gray.
Fine art photographer Larry DiTilio has an eye for Vietnam. He's been capturing its daily rhythm for nearly a decade.
Well, I think the best way for me to explain it is it's a very heterogeneous type of a situation. That is to say, there's a great deal more variety in the appearance of things, in the types of relationships that people have between each other, as well as with their land and with their style of life.
When you look through your camera lens at Vietnam, what do you see and what do you capture?
Well, I think certainly people. I have to start with people. The people, for me, are very warm and open, unusually so, more than any other country I've visited, and I think I've probably been through 20 countries now. But they are very open and very non-judgmental. And so you never feel that you're really apart from them. As soon as you begin the conversation, they right away seem to draw you in and make you feel that you are now collaborating with them in a way that's very human to me.
Larry DiTilio wants outsiders, especially Americans, to know today's Vietnam, to let go of images from the past.
I think that this sense of loss that Americans feel from the war, both in terms of not winning something and also the damage done to our own people, is very, very difficult for us to let go of.
So he focuses his camera on the breadth of Vietnam, from urban growth to the changing roles of women.
Younger women who are in their 20s, who are university educated, typically come from middle-class families and have worldly ambitions, find themselves in a very strong set of conflicts with the traditional cultural expectations, which of course include, let's get married right away and let's have babies right away.
DiTilio is just as intrigued by rural life. the landscape, culture, and global connections.
They're very aware of what we do, and they aspire to some of the same benefits that we have in our culture. So in that sense, it's a very contemporary modern society, and I don't really think Western people realize how true that is.
Larry DiTilio is building his bridge to Vietnam one frame at a time. One of those bridges extends from the Milwaukee campus of Alverno College. Political science associate Professor Russell Brooker knows Vietnam pretty well himself.
The cities are getting very large, and the disparity in wealth is very great.
From its ancient culture,
But I think Vietnam was perfectly fine being Vietnam, and now it's becoming much more American.
To the political climate.
To a great extent, the Communist Party has done wonderful things in that it's kept order, which is very important, and it has allowed the economy to expand dramatically.
And the reality of market socialism.
Because of the power of the Communist Party, the capitalism is not free to develop as it would, because the Communist Party hierarchy owns a lot of business, controls a lot of businesses, and because of that, its growth is less than it would be, and the welfare of the people is less than it would be otherwise.
Dr. Brooker has taught courses in Vietnam on American government. He's also led his Alverno students on frequent visits. One of his favorite photos was taken by a student of this woman.
At this point in time, we have traditional Vietnam lingering on with the woman selling her wares at the market. And then we have the new 21st century world in the form of a cell phone. I think the future of Vietnam is one of great economic growth, followed by political instability caused by that great growth and the inequality. And what's going to happen, I don't know.
The Socialist Republic of Vietnam is redefining its role as a global citizen. A former enemy nation is assisting in that effort. Building a post-war bridge doesn't come easily. It takes time. Some of those bridges even extend from Milwaukee itself, through family, education, enterprise, and healing.